Scientists uncover a secret to cockroaches' adaptability. Research shows that cockroaches have evolved so that glucose-sweetened bait tastes bitter, helping them avoid once infallible traps. In the war against pests, a lowly cockroach makes for a fearsome adversary. It can go weeks without water, survive decapitation for a time, and, likely any proper supervillain, can send humans screaming from the room. Now researchers have discovered how some roaches have eluded humans' once infallible traps. They have evolved so that glucose-sweetened bait tastes bitter. The discovery, published in Friday's edition of the journal Science, solves a 20-year mystery and sheds light on the cockroach's powerful ability to adapt. These roaches are unbelievable, said Walter Leal, a chemical ecologist at UC Davis, who was not involved in the study. There's an arms race here. Cockroaches are an inevitable companion to human civilization. They infest dark corners of homes, feed on all types of food, not to mention hair, glue, and soap, and skitter away quickly when spotted. They can fill homes in the tens of thousands. Exterminators once responded to the onslaught by spraying a home's baseboards with strong insecticide, but this risked exposing children and pets to harsh chemicals. The baited trap solved this dilemma in the mid-1980s. Placed under sinks and in the cupboards, the traps lured the hungry cockroaches with sugary temptations and then poisoned them quickly with insecticide. But by 1993, exterminators started noticing something strange. The traps seemed to have lost their power. Somehow, cockroaches were thriving on baited homes. Jules Silverman, an entomologist, got on the case. His employer at the time was Clorox Company, owned a bait-making business, and he began taking the traps apart, testing the ingredients one by one on Batellia germanica, the German cockroach. Silverman could see that pesticides still killed the roaches. Clearly the problem had to be with the sweet baits. They were sweetened with a formulation of high fructose corn syrup that was about 55% fructose and about 45% glucose, a simple sugar that serves as standard energy currency in living things. Companies switched baits to favor fructose, and the traps have seemed to work since. But the cause of the cockroaches' glucose boycott remained a mystery. Silverman revisited the question 2 decades later, after he joined the faculty at North Carolina State University in Raleigh. Using a network of cockroach collectors around the world who picked up samples from infested homes on the U.S. mainland and in Puerto Rico and Russia, he and his colleagues gathered 19 different populations of German cockroaches and tested the bugs for the anti-sweet tooth. This was easy enough. Normal cockroaches would gladly dig into the batch of sweet, sticky jelly, while glucose-averse roaches will jump back as if repulsed. Sure enough, the glucose haters cropped up in 7 of the populations studied by Kobe Schall, an entomologist at North Carolina State, a senior author in the science study. It's really interesting how they jump away from it, he said. It's like an electric shock almost. The cockroach's taste system is much more decentralized than that of a human's, Schall said. They have taste buds on several facial appendages and even on their feet. The researchers focused on the paragulaceae, which sit closest to the cockroach mouth, and allow the critters to taste objects before eating them. The paragulaceae are lined with hair-like sensilla, just a few micrometers long, that contain taste receptor neurons. The researchers stuck tiny glass electrodes onto these sensilla and then had the cockroaches taste a variety of sweet and bitter compounds, including fructose, the sugar found in fruit, and caffeine, whose bitterness is usually used by plants as to deter predators. Then they watched the electrical signals the neurons sent to the brain. Signals for sweet had a very different shape than those for bitter, Schall said. That gave scientists a fingerprint of each taste. Next, they fed cockroaches glucose-laced solution and watched the electrical signals. For normal cockroaches, glucose triggered a sweet signal, but in the glucose-averse cockroaches, the solution triggered both sweet and bitter signals. Mystery solved. The warning was coming straight from the tips of their taste buds. We were elated, Schall said. Losing a function in sight or taste is not uncommon in the animal kingdom. In fact, many marine mammals have lost their ability to taste sweet things, perhaps because they don't encounter it in their fishy diet. But adding sensory information, setting off a bitter alarm for a sweet food, is another story. It's incredibly rare, Shaw said. We don't know any other example where instead of having a loss of function, you had a gain of a new function, and that's what happened in the cockroach. There are some disadvantages to glucose aversion, the authors pointed out. Glucose-averse cockroaches tended to grow and reproduce more slowly than their sweeter-toothed brethren. But in a trap-filled home, perhaps slow growth was a fair price to pay to stay alive. The findings could have implications for research on obesity and diabetes in humans, said Bukowski, an urban entomologist at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, who was not involved in the study. Perhaps there's a new way to induce this type of evolutionary change to make harmful substances less appealing, even repellent. Maybe we would have fewer health problems because of obesity and diabetes, maybe even addiction to alcohol and drugs, he said. If we could induce aversion to different materials that harm people, maybe that has implications for human health overall.